Chapter 1. In the Depths of the Dream. The dark, crumbling mansion stood as a monument to forgotten times, its eerie facade seemingly frozen in eternal twilight. Bathed in the soft moonlight's glow, the details of its once grandeur, now marred by decay, only hinted at the opulence it had once exuded. While most considered it a forsaken and neglected place, for Dr. Helena Van Der Meer, it was not just a crumbling mansion. It was her singular obsession, a magnetic pull that transcended logic. As a renowned psychiatrist, her interests extended beyond conventional psychiatric treatment. She was endlessly captivated by the deepest and most obscure recesses of the human mind. Helena was no stranger to investigating the arcane, and she believed that something profoundly unsettling and deeply mysterious lay concealed within the walls of this ancient house. Months of relentless research had uncovered disconcerting tales of its former inhabitants, stories of madness, inexplicable fears, and haunting disappearances that had occurred to anyone who dared cross the threshold. Despite her own disbelief in supernatural phenomena, Helena was resolute in her determination to unravel the psychological underpinnings of this pervasive and unyielding terror. As she stood before the looming mansion, trepidation coursed through her veins, met with an undeniable thrill. With every step she took toward the crumbling entrance, her heart quickened. The dark allure of the mansion, like an enigmatic siren, seemed to pull her further into its depths. Her flashlight, a frail beacon in the pervasive darkness, sliced through the heavy air and revealed a scene of neglect and disrepair. Dust and cobwebs, like spectral remnants of time, clung to every surface, bearing witness to years of isolation. The very floorboards creaked with apprehension, as if warning her away from what lay within. The disquieting silence was occasionally pierced by eerie echoes of her footsteps, reverberating through the empty hallways. The corridors, once teeming with life, now lay in perpetual abandonment. Chapter 2. Whispers of the Past. With each step, Helena sensed a palpable change in the atmosphere, as if the house's very walls were imbued with history, secrets, and restless spirits. Faded wallpaper, cracked paint, and rustling curtains seemed to whisper to her, weaving an unsettling tapestry of forgotten memories. It was as if the mansion itself held within its time-worn structure the echoes of those who had dwelled within, and their stories were etched into the very foundations of the place. The allure of the house was not merely architectural, it was an embodiment of the human psyche itself. As Helena ventured deeper into its labyrinthine corridors, she became aware of an uncanny resonance between her own thoughts and the enigmatic house. It was as though the structure responded to her presence, and each room became a reflection of her innermost fears and desires. The boundary between the physical world and her own consciousness began to blur, and visions and apparitions started to merge with her reality. The air was heavy with an inexplicable sense of foreboding, and she sensed that she was not alone. She heard whispers, faint and indistinct, echoing from the walls themselves. As she explored further, the whispers grew louder, like ghostly conversations that played on an endless loop. They spoke of secrets, tormented souls, and the house's dark history. Chapter 3. Secrets of the Rooms. The house unfolded as a twisting maze of rooms and corridors, each more disconcerting than the last. Helena pressed forward, each step taking her deeper into the recesses of her own psyche. She felt as though she were walking through a labyrinth of her own mind, a place where reality and imagination intermingled. As time slipped away, she experienced a sense of déjà vu, as if she had been in these rooms before, in dreams that had long since faded. The paintings on the walls seemed to shift and change when she looked away, and the air was heavy with expectation. It was as though the house was guiding her, leading her to confront the deepest parts of her own consciousness. The rooms themselves seemed to manifest the thoughts and emotions that Helena had buried within her. In one chamber, she encountered her own childhood fears, while in another, she faced the ghosts of her past relationships. The house was a mirror, reflecting her innermost conflicts and desires. It was a psychological battleground where she was forced to confront the darkest corners of her own mind. Chapter 4. The Shadow in the Mirror. One of the most terrifying discoveries was an old weathered mirror tucked away in a dimly lit corner of the house. Helena couldn't resist the compulsion to gaze into it, and what she saw sent shivers down her spine. Her reflection stared back at her, but it was not a mere reflection. Her own eyes, usually calm and composed, betrayed an expression of profound fear and vulnerability. In contrast, the reflection within the mirror bore a sinister, grinning shadow, as though a malevolent spirit lurked within the glass. The shadow in the mirror was not a passive image. It moved with sinister intention. It seemed to mock her, grinning malevolently and whispering cryptic words that sent a chill down her spine. Helena was torn between the dread it evoked and the irresistible fascination that drew her closer to the mirror. Her reflection was now a source of profound disquiet. It was as though the mirror had become a portal to a realm of the mind where hidden fears and buried anxieties took tangible form. Every time she looked into it, the shadow seemed to grow stronger, feeding off her innermost terrors and becoming a nightmarish mirror of her own consciousness. The mirror's influence on Helena was undeniable. She found herself compelled to return to it again and again, despite the increasing terror it evoked. The grinning shadow became a constant presence in her mind, a relentless reminder of the darkness within. Chapter 5. Time in Disarray. As Helena ventured deeper into the house, the boundaries of time began to blur in a surreal and unsettling manner. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, and the night seemed to stretch on endlessly. Her wristwatch, once a reliable companion, had become an erratic timepiece that mocked her sense of temporal reality. It was as though the house itself was manipulating time, casting her into a realm where past, present, and future converged in a bewildering tapestry. Helena's grasp on the passage of time grew tenuous. The past seeped into the present, and the future beckoned with tantalizing, yet elusive, glimpses. Time had become a fluid concept, and the relentless ticking of her watch was but a whisper amidst the ceaseless and disorienting murmur of the house. With each passing day, Helena felt as though she had been living in the mansion for years, if not decades. The relentless disarray of time deepened her sense of isolation and disorientation. She was adrift in a world where the normal rules no longer applied, and the house itself seemed to be a sentient entity, toying with her perception of time. Chapter 6. Unveiling the Truth. Days, weeks, or perhaps even months seemed to meld together as Helena ventured ever deeper into the heart of the house. She had journeyed through corridors that twisted and turned, each leading her closer to the hidden chamber that had remained concealed until now. It was as if the house itself had been guiding her, urging her to uncover the secrets it held. When she finally stood before the concealed room, there was a tangible sense of energy that hung in the air. The room seemed to pulse with an eerie life of its own. Upon entering, Helena was greeted by a tableau of unsettling discoveries. Walls covered in cryptic symbols and faded murals that told stories of twisted experiments and tortured minds. Journals and manuscripts lay scattered, their pages filled with the fevered musings of those who had once dwelled here. The revelations within these texts were shocking, uncovering the depths of the previous residents' dark rituals and their relentless pursuit of the shadow in the mirror. Helena realized that the shadow was not a supernatural entity, but a manifestation of the darkest facets of the human mind, a mirror to the collective consciousness of those who had suffered within these walls. The house had become a crucible for madness and despair, and it had etched its indelible mark on the soul of anyone who entered. The room itself was a treasure trove of forbidden knowledge, and as Helena delved into its secrets, she felt a growing connection to the tormented souls who had once inhabited the mansion. The boundary between her own consciousness and theirs began to blur, and she could hear their voices in the recesses of her mind. It was as though the house was a repository of human suffering, and Helena had become its unwilling custodian. Chapter 7. The Way Out. Armed with newfound knowledge, Helena understood that she had to leave the house behind, no matter the cost. The shadow in the mirror, however, was not willing to relinquish its hold on her mind. It had taken on a sinister sentience of its own, feeding on her fears and obsessions. The struggle to break free from the house was an arduous and perilous journey. She could feel the shadow's presence constantly, whispering in the corners of her mind. A constant reminder of the horrors she had witnessed. Eventually, through sheer determination and a sheer force of will, Helena managed to escape the house's clutches. But the shadow in the mirror did not let go. It clung to her like a parasite, continuing to haunt her even in the mundane moments of her life. It whispered in the dark corners of her thoughts, a constant reminder that her experience had left an indelible scar on her soul. Chapter 8. The Inescapable Darkness. Helena emerged from the haunted mansion, her body battered and her mind scarred. The world outside felt strange and alien, as if she had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. Her friends and colleagues could see the change in her, the haunted look in her eyes, but they could never understand the horrors she had witnessed. The shadow in the mirror had not let go. It clung to her like a malevolent specter, a constant presence that whispered in the dark corners of her thoughts. In the light of day, the shadow's power waned, but in the depths of the night, it returned with a vengeance, tormenting her with visions and nightmares. Helena sought solace in her work, throwing herself into her research with a fervor that bordered on obsession. She delved deeper into the mysteries of the human mind, hoping to find a way to exorcise the shadow that haunted her. But the more she learned, the more she realized that the darkness within her was not a mere aberration. It was a reflection of the darkness that lurked within all of humanity. As the years passed, Helena's reputation grew, and her name became synonymous with the cutting edge of psychiatric research. She became a sought-after expert in the field, but her personal life had withered away. She had become a recluse, isolated from the world, a prisoner of her own thoughts. The shadow in the mirror remained a relentless tormentor, a reminder of the inexorable darkness that resided within the human psyche. Helena had ventured into the shadows of her mind, and there was no way to return to the light. She had become a living embodiment of the inescapable darkness that could consume those who dared to confront the hidden truths within their own consciousness. The world may never know the true extent of the horrors Helena had faced in the depths of the dream, but she had become a cautionary tale, a living testament to the insidious power of the human mind. As she continued her solitary journey into the unknown, the shadow in the mirror grinned malevolently, knowing that it had found a permanent home in the depths of her soul. Helena Van Der Meer had become a prisoner of her own mind, forever lost in the inescapable darkness. And so, the story ends, with the chilling realization that the true horror does not reside in haunted mansions or malevolent spirits, but in the labyrinthine complexities of the human mind, where shadows and secrets lie in wait, ready to ensnare those who dare to venture too deep. If you've got a taste for the macabre and an appetite for the mysterious, you're in the right place. If you enjoyed the spine-tingling tales we shared today, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on our latest dark narratives.